Good morning. Bienvenidos. So I'm supposed to give you an inspirational start to our discussion, but I know I'm preaching to the choir. All of you responded to the call for proposals, and you are the ones who were chosen. Uh, we have representation from across the country. Some of you come from localities where Latinos have had a long presence. Uh, Others come from localities where Latinos have just become a recent visible presence. It doesn't make any difference. Regardless, you all understand the importance of what we're trying to do here. And I just want to underscore the need for your various local projects. We share a basic goal. We all understand that we're trying to uncover or recover histories of Latino Americans. We're trying to develop an appreciation for these histories. But we're trying to do more than just provide information. Uh, our overall goal, I believe, is to secure a place for Latinos in our country's history. Essentially, we're trying to gain recognition for Latinos as a legitimate citizenry of this country. And as you know, unfortunately, we're locked in a struggle here. I mean, it's not something that we can take for granted. While we celebrate gay pride today, we're still reeling from the Charleston tragedy, as you know. President Obama said that we're still living in the shadow of slavery. Well, I think we're still living in a shadow of conquest when it comes to Latino Americans. The recent comments of Donald Trump that were just referred to remind us that Latinos are still seen as outsiders by many. And it's not just Donald Trump. I mean, we can refer to the work of Harvard scholar Samuel Huntington a few years ago, who wrote in his book, Who Are We? That's the title of his book, where he develops the argument that Latinos represent an internal threat to this country. And Professor Huntington was not just a loony, eccentric intellectual. He was part of the national security apparatus. And if Huntington is thinking this way, obviously others involved in our national security are thinking the same way. So this is a struggle that we're dealing with. We've been seeing their various tropes, various themes. Professor Pitti, I'm sure, will be covering some of these. When it comes to Latinos, generally we have made cameo appearances in our history books, usually as an enemy. We can talk about the Alamo, the Mexican-American War, or the war against Spain in 1898. I recall that I had to inform the college students at the University of Texas at Austin, where I was for a bit, that the Alamo was not fought on American territory. Santa Anna did not invade the United States. The Alamo was fought on Mexican territory. They had the idea that the United States already had preformed boundaries, and anybody who came into it then were immigrants. Immigration, again, that's been probably the major trope that's been applied to Latinos, and it doesn't make any difference whether we're descendants of the early pobladores, the early settlers. Nonetheless, Latinos are generally, again, seen as recent arrivals. Criminals or banditry, again, criminality, banditry associated with Latinos. Donald Trump just did this recently, so there's no need to elaborate on that theme. If you look at the history of Latinos in this country, generally it's been one of being used as cheap labor, recruited as immigrants, first of all, like in the early 20th century, then deported when no longer needed or when seen as a burden during the 1930s. Over 1 million Latinos or Mexicans and Mexican Americans were deported in the 1930s. Then, of course, recruited during World War II when, again, agricultural labor was needed. And when we had an average of 200,000 braceros working annually in the United States for some 20 years. I mean, all of these, again, and then of course, the Bracero program ends, and we get into deportations. We have Operation Wetback in the 50s. Another, you can actually follow the you can actually write a history if you want to talk about immigration. Write a history of immigration and tie to the boom and bust of the American economy. Um, well, we have to get beyond those kind of tropes. We have to get beyond those kind of themes. We have to recover our role in the nation-building experience. And so when we look at the 19th century, of course, we have to talk about railroads. We have to talk about ranching. When we get to the 20th century, of course, our role in agriculture as an agricultural labor force was critical to the development of the Southwest and, of course, later to other parts of the country. Let's not forget our contribution as, as members of the armed services, our involvement in World War I, and in particularly in World War II and Korea. Not to mention, of course, Vietnam and Iraq. But that was the subject, by the way. That was our mission from the Ken Burns series on World War II sparked a number of protests by Latino veterans because of that omission. So this is what it's important to stress, the fact that 500,000 plus Mexicans and Mexican Americans and Latinos, Puerto Ricans were involved in World War II and the Korean conflict. And those are just some of the critical contributions or areas that we have to uncover. And as we do this, obviously we're going to be empowering the participants. We'll be empowering the members of your communities that are involved in this recovery project. Now I have here, I put up an image. This is just to illustrate some of the material that I think you will be working with. I picked a newspaper clipping that my cousin sent me some time ago when he was going through my uncle's papers. He passed some time ago, and she discovered this newspaper clipping, and it's titled "Un buen carro," a good car. My grandfather's right in the middle, Telésforo Enriquez. This is from Del Rio, Texas, and I'll translate it for you. Un buen carro, good car, Telésforo Enriquez in the middle from Del Rio, Texas, is very proud of his 1951 Ford, which is shown here with some of his friends. Now, of course, the whole piece is supposed to be a promotion for the car, but his friends obscure the car. You can't really see the car. But it says, Senor Enriquez said that his Ford has made 4 trips from Texas to Minnesota, then to Wisconsin, and then back to Texas. And then he says that he's going to do 2 more trips, and he says this with much pride. He calls the Ford the best company that the Ford company has ever done, and he recommends it to all his friends. And then it mentions, identifies the friends who are there standing with him. But what just this one clipping here tells us a lot already. You know, already, first of all, it's a 1951 Ford. There's no date to the clipping, and he's already made several trips. He's made 4 trips to Texas, from Texas to Minnesota. So I figure the clipping comes from about 1953 or so. The other thing that you see from the clip has to do with the movement, you know, of Latinos already in the 1950s. This clip helps me understand why I have cousins in Indiana and Iowa. And so it's very important that we understand that even those communities that you think have historically not had Latinos, that's not necessarily the case. You know, I think if we do a little scratching and uncovering, you'll find that we've actually have been present in almost all areas of this country. If I had to add other things about my grandfather, would be that he was a veteran of World War I. I would try to pair this up with other similar family photos and try to develop a community genealogy. And I think that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be developing not just family genealogies, but also when you combine them all together, we will have a community genealogy. So that's it. I'm not going to prolong my comments. I think you know why we're here. I know you know the importance of what we're doing. And again, we are, I find, it might not, we're not censored right here in the nice confines of San Francisco, but if you look at the country, there's still great misunderstanding about the role of Latinos, the presence of Latinos, how long we've been here, and so forth. So, in a sense, we're doing basic recovery here. Basic recovery. This is, by the way, why I entered, I started writing, because I was confronted with just this profound absence. Profound absence. We were not in the history books. And as a matter of fact, at the time that I recall, as an undergraduate and then later graduate student, many were even questioning the experiences of segregation that Mexicans and Mexican Americans and other Latinos had experienced. So I felt it was very important that we talk about that experience, demonstrate that, really, again, elaborate that notion of the shadow of conquest, And so I'll stop with that. And thank you.